I'm Stacy Holmes, and this is Glordinary, a few moments where we celebrate God's glory and champion the ordinary. I'm glad you're here. Our family is a puzzle family. It's one of our favorite winter pastimes during those cold, dark evenings. Give us our cozy fireplace with some good old HGTV and we'll hunker down. Yes, we love watching home renovations. It hits different after you've tackled the same projects yourselves, right? And we really love the tiny house shows. Now listen, I gotta confess something to you. I'm smack in the throes of perimenopause, and let me tell you, nothing gets my goat quite like those tiny house shows. You know, the ones where a normal-sized family decides they can downsize into a shoebox. Maybe it's the hormones, but I can't stand when these people lie to themselves. You can't have full-size appliances, washer, dryer, separate bedroom, bathtub, flush toilet, and seating for guests in 250 square feet, Karen. It just doesn't work. Deep breaths, deep breaths. But it does bring up an interesting point. You see, Karen, or whatever you want to name your fictional tiny house buyer, well, Karen and I have different perspectives on reality. I know Karen's not fitting all that in a tiny house. I know she's got big eyes and big ideas for a tiny house. But I know she's also about to be sorely disappointed because Karen and I have different perspectives on reality, which got me thinking, what's God think about tiny houses? Okay, well, not tiny houses per se, but what's his perspective on small, on those tiny little details of my life? What's his perspective about little old me and little old you? Because I know our tendency as humans, bigger is better, go for the gold, climb that ladder, advance, expand. We're uncomfortable with the small, even if we do think we want to, quote, go tiny. And smallness, well, we often equate small with insignificance. But God, well, God delights in the small. He cherishes the small. He, dare I say, prefers the small. How do I know? Well, how could he not? He makes a pretty good case for smallness. After all, it was Pharaoh's daughter who rescued baby Moses from the river in a small papyrus basket. That same baby-turned deliverer would later raise his staff to split the waters of the Red Sea. And how could we forget, before Jericho's walls came crashing down, all it took was a small scarlet cord from Rahab's window to save her entire family. And yes, this same Rahab goes on to be named in the lineage of Christ. And then there's Gideon's small army, which God reduced in size from 32,000 to 300 men, who won a stunning victory. And Saul, oh Saul, Israel's first king, chosen from the smallest of tribes, the tribe of Benjamin. Remember the story from 2 Kings? Just a small amount of oil miraculously multiplied to pay off a poor widow's debts. And who doesn't love the shepherd David, right? When he took down the giant Goliath with what? A smooth, small stone, probably no bigger than the size of a baseball. Was it the first of his 5 stones? Perhaps. I suppose the other 4 were maybe just for souvenirs. Remember after the showdown with Jezebel's prophets and Elijah's subsequent meltdown? It's found in 1 Kings 19, and God spoke to Elijah in a still small voice, not in the howl of the wind, the rattle of an earthquake, or the fury of fire. Nope, a still small voice. And then there's Jesus, the very Son of God, born as a helpless, dependent baby in a small manger because no proper room was available. The widow who brought a small offering, remember her? Hardly noticeable in comparison to others, but forever remembered in God's eyes. Of course, one of my favorites, the young boy who offered a small meal of fish and loaves, nourishing 5,000 men, not including the women and children. And P.S., they went home satisfied, with leftovers. Could I get a box? Jesus reminds us a small mustard seed of faith, a tiny speck, is all that's needed. Wait, so I don't even have to be amazing at this faith thing? Nope. Are you low on cash? Go fishing. You might find a small coin inside a fish to pay the temple tax for Jesus and his disciples. Okay, that one's just wild. And then my buddy Zacchaeus, a small man in a sycamore fig tree. Yet small doesn't go unnoticed. He caught the attention and invitation of Jesus. And I'm going to your house today. Don't you see? Where a small amount are gathered, 2 or 3, Christ is right there in the midst. And of course he's there. Why? Because the small things aren't small to God. They only seem small to us because we have a different perspective. It reminds me of a tiny little verse I cherish. It says, "You stoop down to make me great." That's 2 Samuel 22:36, and it's actually only half the verse. King David penned those words, and sure, a king would be able to say, "You stoop down to make me great." David's a king. That's pretty great. But that's not what David was saying. He's referencing how God has seen his every little sorrow, fear, or even threat of danger. God has seen little old David. You stoop down to make me great. You see, in the Hebrew, that word for stoops down means to pay attention to eye, E-Y-E, as in eye level. You get down to eye level with me and make me great. Except great in the original language doesn't mean what our American minds imagine. The wealth, the big house, the power positions. It means to bring up, to gather. I can almost picture the father stooping down, getting eye level, gathering and scooping up this little one. You stoop down to make me great. And just like when we stop, stoop down, and look eye to eye with a small child, so does he with us. Kneeling down, pausing to gaze into our eyes, lock in on our voice, our cries, our sighs, our hopes, our sorrows, our joys. Like an attentive parent, he stoops down to hear your stories, your heartaches, kiss your boo-boos and scoop you up. Because only a big God could choose to be small enough to stoop down to make you great, to make me great. You see, small isn't small in the eyes of God. Yes, he's big enough, but he's small enough too. Small enough to notice, small enough to care, small enough to listen. Oh, it might sound backward, but actually we're the ones who get it backward and twisted. We're the ones who equate bigness with honor and prestige. We're the ones who think more stuff equals more blessing. We're the ones whose perspective on reality doesn't always match his. God doesn't have it twisted. We do. So are there places you're feeling overly small lately? Maybe it's your physical space, some friendships, your position at work, perhaps. Maybe you're feeling overlooked, like your efforts really don't matter, let alone make a difference. Maybe it's been a minute since someone's truly stooped down to make you great, stopped to meet you at eye level and gather you near. If you're feeling this way, please know you aren't alone. No, God's inviting us to take his perspective on the small things of life, even on the smallness of our lives, because he's a God of the small, and he delights in the small. So let's embrace his reality, his perspective on the smallness of life, the ordinariness of our own lives even. He's inviting us to cherish the small, the whispered mustard seed prayers, the small offerings, the cups of water, the faithful day in and day out commitment to the skills and talents we do have, the stooping down with a child, or the least, or the lost. These are the small things, the small times, the small spaces, to be cherished, not cheated. You stoop down to make me great, because only a big enough God could choose to be small enough for little ol' me and little ol' you. Remember, you're not alone in this. I'm praying for you, friend. Have a glordinary day.